Today's number is 80, as in 80%. According to a study conducted by Fortune, that's the percentage of white-collar workers who are actively avoiding or outright rejecting their company's AI tools. 8 in 10. And here's the other side of that story. 60% of C-suite executives say they plan on laying off employees who don't adopt AI. So on one hand, workers are saying no. On the other, leadership is saying, fine, then you're out. That's not a debate. That's a good old-fashioned standoff. And in today's episode, it's all about what happens when nobody blinks. Welcome to Friday. And just to forewarn you, today's episode is going to be a spicy one. A new survey says 80% of office workers are rejecting AI, and 60% of their companies are ready to fire them for not adopting it. Anthropic just launched its most powerful public model and put it inside of Microsoft Word, then turned around and started asking users for their passports. Duolingo CEO publicly backed down from grading employees on AI use. And a Swedish researcher invented a fake disease, planted it in papers that cited the Starfleet Academy, and watched as ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot diagnosed it as a real medical condition. Hollywood couldn't write a better script if it tried. I'm Tom Michalik, and this is your Morning Intelligence for Friday, April 17th, 2026. All right, here's what we've got for you today. First up, the standoff. Earlier this week, we covered the writer and workplace intelligence surveys of 2,400 workers and executives. The findings paint a picture of a workforce in open rebellion against AI mandates, and the C-suite that's ready to respond with layoffs. We'll break down the numbers and what they actually mean for your career. Then we'll get into the rundown. Anthropic launched Claude Opus 4.7 yesterday, their most capable public model, with integrations into Word, PowerPoint, and a new AI design tool that sent Adobe and Figma stocks crumbling. But Anthropic also started requiring government-issued photo ID for some of Claude users, which is a first for any AI major chatbot. And Duolingo CEO just publicly reversed course on grading employees by AI usage. In the deep cut, a study that cuts against everything else you'll hear today. Half of the workers who've learned AI say it makes them more confident after switching jobs, not less. That's data from the University of Phoenix's Career Optimism Index, and it might be the most important number of this episode. And we'll close with a story about a Swedish researcher, a fake disease, and the AI chatbots that confidently diagnosed it as real. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, let's kick off with our lead story today. We've spent a lot of time this weekend really on the show talking about AI and jobs, the layoff numbers, the displacement numbers, the anxiety. But today's story is about the other side of the coin, the people who are still at their desks and are saying, no, I don't want to use it. Fortune published a piece pulling together data from multiple sources, and the headline number is hard to ignore. Roughly 8 in 10 enterprise workers, 80%, are either avoiding or actively rejecting the AI tools their employers are rolling out. That's not apathy, that's just a straight-up resistance. The data gets more specific from there. A separate survey by Writer, the enterprise AI platform conducted in partnership with the research firm Workplace Intelligence, surveyed 2,400 employees and C-suite leaders globally. We covered this earlier in the week, and here's what they found. 29% of employees admit to actively sabotaging their company's AI strategy. Among Gen Z, that number pops up to 44%. Sabotage here means things like entering company information into public AI tools, using unapproved tools, or just flat out refusing to use the approved ones to begin with. And here's the escalation point here. 60% of C-suite executives in that same survey said that they plan to lay off employees who can't or won't use AI. 77% said those employees won't be considered for promotions or leadership roles. And 69% said that they're already planning AI-related layoffs. KPMG's data adds some context here. 4 in 10 workers now name AI-driven job loss as one of their primary fears, a share that has nearly doubled since this time last year. Researchers have started calling this FOBO, the fear of becoming obsolete. It's not the fear of getting fired per se, it's the fear of becoming irrelevant. So, what do you have here? Well, you have a loop, really. Workers are afraid of AI and how it'll make them obsolete. That fear makes them resistant to the tools. The resistant frustrates leadership. The leadership threatens layoffs, and the threats increase the fear, and around and around and around we go here, right? So, why does all this matter? Well, this is obviously less of a tech story and more of a workplace dynamic story with some AI sprinkled in. And it describes a situation that a lot of people are living right now. Whether you're the worker being told to adopt, or the manager trying to push adoption, or the executive watching the ROI numbers and getting rather impatient, the standoff is real and neither side is blinking. The bottom line here, 8 in 10 workers are saying no to AI. 6 in 10 executives are ready to fire them for it. And almost half the workplace is afraid of becoming obsolete. Something has to give, and this episode is all about who's going to bend first. All right, let's get into our rundown here. 3 stories, and we'll get into it right now. Anthropic launched Claude Opus 4.7 yesterday, their most capable model available to the public. And here's what's new. Coding benchmarks are up 13% over Opus 4.6. The model can now handle images at roughly 3 times the resolution, up to 3.75 megapixels. There's a new effort control called X high that sits between the existing high and the max settings, giving you finer control over how hard the model thinks versus how fast it responds. And it includes self-verification. The model actually checks its own outputs before returning them. Pricing is unchanged here. $5 per million input tokens, $25 per million output. It's available to Claude Pro, Max Team, and Enterprise plans, and through Amazon Bedrock, Google Vertex AI, and obviously Microsoft's Foundry here. But the bigger news for most listeners, at least in this ecosystem, is this. Claude is now integrated into Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, a native sidebar add-on. And Anthropic launched an AI design tool that generates websites, landing pages, and presentations from just plain language prompts. There's a partnership with Figma that turns the AI-generated output into editable design files, not just frozen images, which I think is really cool here. That design tool announcement sent stocks moving. Obviously, Figma, Adobe, Wix, and GoDaddy, well, they all dropped after the news hit. Now, Anthropic also publicly acknowledged that Opus 4.7 still doesn't match the capability of Mythos, their unreleased security-focused model that's only available to about 50 partner companies. That's an unusual move, yes, launching your best public product while admitting a better one exists behind closed doors. But so what? Why are we talking about this? Well, if you use Claude at work, check whether the Word and PowerPoint integration is live for your plan. If you're a designer or a marketer or someone that works with files like that, the new design tool is worth 10 minutes of your time today. This is a real product upgrade, not just a benchmark press release. So give it a shot if you have access to it. Okay, rundown story number 2 here, and now the opposite direction with regards to Anthropic. Anthropic quietly published a new policy this week requiring some Claude users to submit a government-issued photo ID and a live selfie to continue using the service. They've partnered with a company called Persona Identities to handle the verification. The accepted documents are a physical passport, driver's license, or a national ID card. Photocopies don't count, mobile IDs don't count, and obviously student IDs don't count here. According to Anthropic's support page, verification can be triggered in a few situations. When accessing what they call certain capabilities during routine platform integration checks, or as part of safety and compliance measures. They say it currently applies to just a small number of cases involving potentially fraudulent or abusive behavior. Anthropic says the verification data goes to Persona's servers, not Anthropic's. They say it won't be used to train models and it won't be shared with any third parties for marketing. But no other major AI chatbot, none of them requires government identification. Decrypt put the reaction best in their headline. You switched to Claude over surveillance fears and now it wants your passport. So what? Well, if you use Claude and get a prompt asking for your ID, now you know why. It's worth reading the fine print on what Anthropic does with the data before handing over your driver's license. The scope is narrow for now. Whether it stays narrow is worth watching. All right, our third story in today's rundown, the Duolingo CEO backs off of AI performance reviews. Let's bring it back to the theme that we talked about earlier today. If the lead is about companies threatening workers who don't adopt AI, well, this story is about what happens when a CEO finally and actually tries it and has to walk it back. Last April, Duolingo's CEO announced that the company would be AI first. Part of that meant employees would be evaluated on how they used AI. It was one of the loudest AI mandates of any CEO in the world. It did not go well. Employees pushed back, saying it felt like they were being asked to use AI for AI's sake alone. Users started deleting the apps. The CEO told the Financial Times that he did not expect that much blowback. In an interview on the Silicon Valley Girl podcast, Duolingo CEO said that the company has backtracked. His quote directly, "The most important thing in your performance is that you are doing whatever your job is as well as possible. A lot of times, AI can help you with that, but if it can't, I'm not going to force you." That's a significant reversal from one of tech's most vocal AI first CEOs. For some context here outside of Duolingo, Meta now requires engineers to have a percentage of their code changes to be AI assisted. And that factors into performance reviews. NVIDIA and McKinsey have similar mandates. So Duolingo is the outlier now, the one pulling back while others are pushing forward. Well, so what? If you're a manager trying to get your team to use AI, this is the cautionary tale. Even Duolingo CEO, one of the loudest AI first voices in tech, had to reverse course. Mandates create resistance. Incentives create adoption. Okay, quick pause here. If this episode is landing with you, if it made you think about something, or maybe even think about something differently, or gave you something concrete to bring to a conversation at work, I'd really appreciate it if you shared it with just one person. That's all I'm going to ask. Share it with one person, whether it be via text message, email, send it to them in a group chat, Slack, whatever makes the most sense for you. It takes all of 5 seconds, and I would genuinely appreciate it if you'd help the show grow. All right, enough of that. Let's get into the deep cut today. Okay, after an episode full of standoffs and anxiety, I want to give you something different because there's a piece of data that's been sitting in my notes all week long, and it pushes back on everything we just talked about. I can't wait to share it with you. The University of Phoenix Career Institute released its 6th annual Career Optimism Index earlier this month. It's a national study, 5,000 U.S. working adults and 1,000 employers, fielded in late January and early February of this year. And the headcount finding is this: 50% of workers say AI makes them more confident about pivoting into a new role. Not less, more. Listen to that again against today's lead. 80% of workers are resisting AI at work. But among those who've actually learned it already, half of them say it's giving them options they didn't have before. The study breaks it down even further. 63% of all workers say they feel positive about job opportunities available to them. Among workers who describe themselves as comfortable and knowledgeable with AI, that number jumps up to 75%. Over half said AI helps them learn new skills faster. 46% said AI has broadened what they believe is possible for their career. And here's the part that should worry the employer. Nearly half of employers, 48%, said they're worried they can't retain AI fluent talent. The people who actually learn the tools aren't more loyal, they're more mobile. So why is this worth your time? Why am I covering this? Well, this is part of the most coverage that people miss. The story all week has been fear of missing out, or fear of becoming obsolete, FOBO, sabotage, layoffs. And yes, all of that is real. But the Career Optimism Index tells a different story for people who already crossed the line from resistance to learning. AI literacy isn't just about keeping your current job. It is leverage, yes. It's optionality, yes, absolutely. The workers who learn the tools aren't clinging to their desks. They're looking around and realizing they now have choices. That doesn't erase anxiety per se. It doesn't mean the layoffs aren't going to happen or that they're not real. But it does mean that the path through this is learning, not resistance. And the data says that the people who took that path are feeling better about their futures. All that said, the takeaway is this: half of the workers from the study who actually learned AI said it made them more confident about switching jobs. The ones who learned the tools aren't the ones who are scared anymore. That might be the most important sentence in today's episode. All right, before we sign off for today and for the rest of the week, some fun stuff here. Let me leave you with something that will genuinely make you laugh, or at least it made me laugh. And then it'll make you think, and then maybe worry a little bit, all in that order. But here we go. A medical researcher named Almira Osmanovic Thurnstam at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden wanted to test a very simple question. If you plant fake medical information in academic-looking papers, will AI chatbots pick it up and present it as real? So, in early 2024, she invented a disease. She called it vixnomania, described it as an eye condition caused by excessive blue light exposure, sore, itchy eyes, discolored eyelids, all that stuff. She uploaded 2 fake studies about it to a preprint server, and she filled the papers with red flags, obvious ones. The lead author worked at a place called Asteria Horizon University in Nova City, California. Well, neither of those places exist. The acknowledgement section thanked Professor Maria Bohm at the Starfleet Academy of her kindness and generosity in contributing with her knowledge in her lab on board the USS Enterprise. Starfleet Academy, the USS Enterprise, in a medical paper. And yes, within weeks, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and Microsoft Copilot were all confidently describing vixnomania as a real condition. Copilot called it an intriguing and relatively rare condition. Gemini linked it to blue light exposure and recommended users see an ophthalmologist. Yeah, and it got worse too. 3 researchers at the Medical Institute in India cited the fake papers in a real paper published in Curious, a peer-reviewed journal published by Springer Nature. That paper was later retracted. Nature covered the whole thing this month. So next time someone tells you AI is ready to replace doctors, just remember this. A researcher cited Starfleet Academy in a medical paper, and the AI fell for it hook, line, and sinker. All right. No teasers for tomorrow. Obviously, tomorrow we're off, but here's some things I'm taking a look at over the weekend. OpenAI's next generation model, codenamed Spud, is still expected any day now. Polymarket has it at 78% probability by the end of April. And yes, I am using Polymarket data to keep eyes on this. If it drops over the weekend, it's definitely Monday's lead. The Musk versus OpenAI trial has jury selection on April 27th, 10 days away, and Anthropic's $1.5 billion copyright settlement has a final approval hearing next Wednesday. I'll be keeping an eye on that as well. All that to say, have a great weekend, and I hope to see you on Monday. And that's your morning intelligence for Friday, April 17th, 2026. If you liked what you heard, hit subscribe from wherever you're listening. Share it with that one friend who keeps asking you, hey, what's going on in the world of AI? You know who they are. I'm Don Michalik. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great Friday and have a great weekend.